Recorded at GCSAA 2025 in San Diego, California. Here's your host, SiteOne Golf representative, Max McGee.
Lucas, please introduce yourself and tell us where you're from.
I'm Lucas Walters. I'm the golf course superintendent, Ocean Forest Golf Club in Sea Island, Georgia.
Excellent. So you decided to make the trek cross country to meet up with some of your comrades and then talk a little turf, huh?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's always good to get out to these meetings and network and see everybody.
Are you an every year GIS show attendee?
Yeah, most of the years, yeah.
All right. Excellent. Yeah, you find value in it for even if it is across country.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's just good to experience all these new cities we go to. Like, I've never been last year, Phoenix, so that was as far west as I've ever been. So San Diego beats that record. And
yeah,
so it's always worth getting away and seeing everybody and learn something new.
You can peel a couple things that you've never seen or heard or learned before out of these meetings, and they definitely hold a lot of value for superintendents. Well, cool, Lucas. So I guess you work with Mr. Jason Wilkerson.
I do. Yep.
All right. We won't speak ill of him, but yeah, thank you for being a SiteOne customer, and tell me a little bit about your background and what got you into where you are today.
So I grew up in Atlanta and played golf since I was 6, and ever since I was a kid, I knew I wanted to be in the golf industry at some level, whether I'm playing or, but when I was probably 10, I think, went out to one of the golf courses when I was starting to learn how to play, and just being outside in the morning and seeing the mowers go and the smell of fresh grass getting cut, you're thinking, this is fun. And so when I was old enough to work on the grounds crew at my local golf course, that's where it started, and I got the bug. And so went to.
How old were you?
I was 16 when I started at the golf course, but he would only let me do the carts. So the superintendent made me wait till I was 18 to get on the crew. And so when I graduated high school, when I went to college, this is what I'm going to do.
Excellent. Yeah, you were hooked from the get.
Yeah, oh yeah.
The past couple guys I've spoken to, it's not uncommon. They'll get into another industry, some other capacity, anything, and then they'll hear about what golf course superintendents do or get hooked playing, and it'll peel them away from their, maybe bank job or being something else and just get hooked. So it's fun to get in it from an early age and ride it and see where it could take you.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
So talking about pressures and challenges that you might see on a daily basis, is there something that sticks out in your mind that you as a manager and a grass grower face today?
It's the battle of Mother Nature. It's the things you can't control that you're trying to control, and so you never know what day, what's going to be thrown at you, and it's do your best to adjust and evolve and adapt to those conditions, and try to provide the world-class conditions that we're trying to provide. And it's a grind, and then it's getting your crew dialed in to where they look at the course the same way you're looking at it, and to where they know the standard and expectation level that we're expecting to provide for our members. And it's that's the biggest challenge, is being able to adapt to that.
One thing you said, your decisions are based upon weather. That's a huge statement, and that's a huge concept that other industries really don't contend with.
Right.
And unless you're a farmer, it's kind of unique to what we do. So that was well said. And I think the public may not understand that conditions day to day are dictated a lot by previous weather and what you got coming down the pipe.
That's right. No, that's absolutely right. There's so many things, so many factors that are out of our control that we're trying to control, and sometimes that you can't really hit the nail where you want it. You just can't dial in that 10 for the day because there's something that's out of your control.
Yeah.
So it's do the best you can just to battle on and make it work.
And sometimes your decision making is best used to mitigate maybe just potential issues that could be worse if you don't do the right thing.
Right.
So you could take a circumstance that if you weren't there managing it properly, it could be a far worse outcome. So sometimes those things are, what could be worse is, mitigated by what you do.
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's plenty of times that, you might do your best to remedy a situation, and it's still, it's not good. It's not really an acceptable condition, but, and you hear the complaints or, everybody's upset. You're like, well, you think that's bad. Like, you could have seen what it should have been. It could.
There could still be 6 inches of water in this bunker. Instead of a wet sand.
That's right. Absolutely.
Helping you make those decisions day to day. Is there one tool or technology that you couldn't do your job without?
It's funny. It's when I got to Ocean Forest, WeatherBug had set up a weather station, and which is great. You got all your conditions and your temp, humidity, whatever right there. And let me back up. When I was in Atlanta, UGA had weather stations all over the state, and the one reading that they would give us was the ET rate, the evapotranspiration rate.
Sure.
And I loved having that number. It tells you how much water you've lost over the course of the day or the 24 hours. So when I got to Ocean Forest and I had that weather station, I said, is there any way that we can get the ET reading? And the guys they just looked at me and they're like, the only people that have ever asked for that number are farmers. Like, why do you want that number? And I told them, and they said, that's amazing. He goes, farmers are the only ones that, know what that number is. Well, golf course superintendents know.
Yes.
And I was like, is there any way you can get me that number? And so there is part of the station now where I can see the ET readings for the day.
And I'm sure importantly is the location of that reading in relation to your golf course. So where you said that where you used to be, I hope that weather station was close by,
right?
Because it's microclimate based.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. When I was in Atlanta, I was working at a club called Rivermont, and right down the road, I don't know, 2 or 3 miles as the crow flies, was Atlanta Athletic Club, and they had one of the UGA stations. So you kind of take that number with a grain of salt. You kind of think, well, we're close.
Mm-hmm.
But over on Sea Island, the nearest station was Brunswick, and you're talking 7 miles, 8 miles, but you're talking inland versus out on the ocean.
Yeah.
We're sand based. They're going to be sandy, but it's little bit too far for me there. So I want something a little closer to the golf course for that reading.
Rightly so. Yeah, people need to know how, the public needs to understand that these are conditions that you're dealing with are tightly, related to how close those weather readings are to your golf course.
Mm-hmm.
And then it makes a big difference.
That's right.
What are some current trends that you notice in the green industries that, whether it's the green industry or the golf course superintendent industry, that are coming down the line that you see that we need to be in front of, or, that are going to be helpful?
I think, it's the good thing is now all the experimenting that's being done with all the, electric mowers, the autonomous mowers, looking at alternatives to pesticides or synthetic fertilizers, things of that nature. And I think it's important that, look, every superintendent's going to be a great steward of the environment. They care. And that's, a stigma I think, golf courses have, is we don't care and we dump fertilizer out and all this. It's like we truly do care about our environment and we want to take care of it. So anything that comes along that might help, like, if we can cut down on diesel fuel emissions or gas emissions and, 2-cycle engine emissions, great. Let's experiment. Let's play with it. But it also has to be able to get the job done. So, the only way you're going to be able to do that now is through all the testing that they're bringing out, and hopefully they can dial it in. So I like the direction that we're seeing with all these things coming down. It's just important that they can help us get the job done.
Follow through and take and see how far it can go to make sure it does or can still get the job done.
Right.
So,
that's the big thing.
Yeah. People have all of these ideas or in the sky of hoping something can, have no negative impact on the environment, but we all still have a job to do, and as long as we can maybe solve both things or both issues, then you might have a winner.
Win-win situation.
Cool. That you just elaborated on misconceptions, or you spoke to misconceptions about maybe superintendents is with us not caring, or you guys maybe not caring for the environment, obviously is a huge misconception. Is there another misconception that people may have, or things they don't know about superintendents that they do on a day-to-day basis?
Well, no, I think that's the big one. It's just not, they think we just go out and throw fertilizer wherever we want and just overspray chemicals and Roundup and things like that. And it's like, that's not what we're doing. And what we're doing is minute amounts But it's getting past that. But it's also being aware of, golf courses are some of the last remaining green space, if you will, inside cities, and it's just a good escape from the concrete jungle out there in these major cities. So it's
Well,
take care of your courses.
yeah, these green spaces could be a condominium complex,
Right.
or a parking lot.
Exactly.
And they need to be valued. And the superintendent is the first person to defend that space. And definitely it's their job to make it as best as it can be and attractive, but yet inclusive to nature and all the natural surroundings that may have been there before it was even there. So,
Yeah.
it's a great concept. And I think it's, as I speak with superintendents, it's synonymous among them, or it speaks to all of them that they are stewards of their property and want it to flourish as much as it can be.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's all the things with the Audubon Society.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's just how beekeeping has come. It's like, and I was talking to one of our fellow board members the other day. He's gotten into it, and he said, if I'm not on the course, I'm taking care of the bees. I love it. It's
infectious.
they get into it, and it's something that they're telling me, like, Luke, you got to get into this. I'm like, well, just give me some bees.
It's addicting, and there are some superintendents get to the point in their career that they'll delegate, they'll have assistants, and they let them do a lot of the day-to-day, and they'll go off and take care of the bees.
Yeah.
And it's therapeutic, probably.
It is. That's exactly what they said. It is their zen.
Yeah.
They get out and they take care of bees. And one of the old superintendents I worked with, he got into the compost tea, like brewing his own tea. So we would have these peat moss beds down in the shop. We'd go up to the clubhouse, get all the scrap food and all this, and we had earthworms, and we'd generate our own mulch, our own compost, and that was his therapy. I'd be out on the course running around with the crew, and he's in there with the worms, and he'd do the compost teas, and it was just their way of getting away.
The spin-off with positive impact is endless. I mean, the potentials are endless out there, which is cool, and it gets a lot of people involved.
All right.
Other things that you may notice in terms of customer expectations. You've been in the industry a while. Since your start, how have customers, and when I say customers, I mean your members, how have your members' expectations changed since you gotten this industry?
Yeah, it's varies from club to club, but everybody has high expectations. It's the funny little joke that we have going around is, don't worry, you just have to be perfect every day. There's no pressure. You just got to be perfect.
Well said.
And there are very high expectations, and that is a challenge. When you have everybody after you, and why aren't the greens firm as this table? Why aren't they rolling a 13 today? Or the bunkers aren't raked perfectly. They set a high bar. It's hard to meet that bar sometimes.
Yeah.
So back in the day when I was a kid playing golf, it's just, where I was from, we were just happy to get out. We didn't care what the course was, we're just happy to be out in nature and, interacting with friends or family and all this. But you get some of the other clubs, it's high end, it's a big deal.
Yeah. And it's good and bad. There's unrealistic expectations, but then there's realistic ones, and it raises the level of, or the product you guys provide.
Right.
And with the technology these days, I think they both hand in hand are elevating each other.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's, a lot of us, we're fortunate to work at clubs where we have the resources to provide that.
There you go.
That's the big thing. We have the tools, we can get the job done.
Communicate what you can do based on your budget, and there has to be a reality associated with it.
That's right.
Yeah. Do you have any, large scale projects in the works that are coming down the pipe, or maybe recently accomplished?
So we just recently renovated Ocean Forest in 2023. Bo Welling did the design, and Landscapes Unlimited did the work. And so we called it a refresh. We didn't tear up the entire golf course. We just new bunkers, new greens, new tee complexes. Didn't do any major rerouting or anything like that. It was an 8-month-long project, and went really well received from the members. And this summer we're going into phase 2 we're going to do the driving range this year. So we got that coming up.
In 23, did you do irrigation as well?
We No, there were some hole, like number 18 was the only hole that we redid completely, so it got a whole new system.
Okay.
But we made some minor adjustments because the design changed just slightly, like a fairway would shift a little bit
Sure.
and move the irrigation with it, but nothing major.
Got you. Yeah, and I'm sure it was well received by membership. They appreciate
Yeah,
it.
it is, at the beginning of these projects, no membership wants to hear that the club is going to be closed for 8 months.
That's a tough pill.
Nobody's going to want that. Some understand why. But I think the biggest compliment that we could get when we reopened, it's, a lot of the members that we'd hear say, they didn't want to shut down. They said that was worth it.
Wow.
That's, great job. They loved it. So it's always good to have the support of your membership, obviously, but, and they were great about it. But, that was the biggest compliment we get. It's,
It was worth it.
That was worth it.
Nice. What turf type?
So we have Celebration fairways, and we put in, we had TifEagle, we put TifEagle greens back in. So Celebration fairways, 419 roughs, TifEagle greens.
Oh, nice. 419 in roughs and Celebration fairways.
Mm-hmm.
Best of both worlds.
Oh yeah.
Right on. We kind of touched on misconceptions. You having been in this role and industry for a while, is there any advice you'd give to newcomers that want to get involved with golf course maintenance, whether as coming out of school or thinking of maybe reevaluating where they work now? How would they get started?
It's definitely understanding the workload. It's the, and the best I can describe it is the guys that I see that are most successful are the ones that are more passionate about it. They love golf. They want to give back to the game, but it's understanding this isn't a 9 to 5, 5-day-a-week job. This is round the clock type stuff. I mean,
you're managing a
7
living,
days a week. Yes.
breathing organism.
That's exactly right. That's exactly how I've said it. It's, if today we get, 7 inches of rain and, torrential winds or something like that, we might be putting in a 14-hour day tomorrow instead of a 5-hour day.
Yeah.
So it just changes. The workload is what they have to get used to. So it's be prepared for that.
Yeah. But also enjoy it. Enjoy being outside and having that workload. And if that's something you don't mind spending time doing, then it's definitely the industry.
And that's what makes it rewarding. And when you're out there and you can, just doing the project, you see the course take shape. And if you really sit back and open your eyes and look at it, it's really rewarding at the end of the day to go home and go, we helped build that. That's awesome. Or when you spend all day and you really work hard and you fix an issue, that's rewarding. So you got to take those little wins when they come at you.
Tangible results help.
Yeah.
Help get you to work and help you be involved and interested and engaged. And that's something not all industries have. And to be able to point to something that you did, I think is...
Yeah, it has its challenges, but it's there's not a day goes by that I regret doing what I do.
Very satisfying.
It's so awesome. I love it.
Sweet. Is there anything that sticks in your mind that will be impactful in the next 10 years? Whether that's robotic mowers, how do you see the green industry evolving in the next 10 years?
I think we'll see a lot of that. It's funny how it seemed like 20 years ago, you would never think that we're going to have autonomous cars. Like, here you have Elon and the Teslas and all that. You think that's not going to happen. And it does. It materialized and it happened.
Yeah.
And you see them on the floor down here. You see the mowers that, Toro and John Deere and all these guys are working on it. And I think it's coming.
Yep.
And it's just be tools to, help the superintendent do his job. But it even just come a long ways with, best management practices with watering and being more efficient, with what all the irrigation guys have done. I love to see that all the work that's going into making our job not so much easier, but be more efficient. It's, to really maximize your potential.
Maximize your labor. So don't, if you get an autonomous mower, you're not going to, eliminate that position. Maybe you redirect that individual
exactly right.
to do a human job that takes a brain and takes, someone that has to analyze a situation and make a decision.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Cool. Well, hey, thank you for taking time to see us, Lucas. We really appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
Hopefully you enjoy the rest of the show.
I'll do it. Thanks, guys.
All right.
Don't forget to join us in 2 weeks for the next episode of Confessions of the Craft. Hear past recordings wherever you like to download podcasts. And follow SiteOne on Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn for the latest from the green industry's leading distributor.